You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's September the 9th, and from the Legacy420.com news desk, welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, found here at paceradio.net. Good morning, Glenn. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you, Al?
Not too bad, considering it's raining here.
Oh, well, keep it there. No rain today, and it's nice and sunny. You see,
Yes.
No light in my room.
Well, I can tell you, today is better than yesterday. Well, maybe today it's raining. Yesterday we had 70-kilometer-an-hour plus gusts of wind, and I had plants that were snapping.
I saw a picture of one of your plants snap there.
Yeah, well, that was like a third of the plant was breaking away, and
Did
I
you
was
save
able
it?
to. Yeah. I was out there just before the show, and it's still looking good and living, but it was a severe break.
So
no doubt
what did
about
you
that.
do? What did you do to save it?
Oh, I ended up getting a piece of T-bar, and I put it right down. And I have tomato cages around them.
Yeah.
So I put it right down inside the tomato cage and drove it in the ground, and that way the tomato cage would hold the plant.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
no, nothing where it came apart. You didn't put any kind of cream in there or salve or anything.
Well, I got it back in position. I got it back up to where it was supposed to be, and it's been suggested to me to put some aloe on it.
Okay.
I just got to find an aloe plant. I haven't been able to find one yet. So, in the past, I've had smaller breaks, and the plant just keeps on growing. It heals, and away it goes.
I had one break off, and I just taped it up with a piece of tape, and it held it, and no problem, and it grew.
And it'll grow, and it'll keep right on growing. So they're, I think the word is resilient.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All righty, get on with the news. Right off the bat, we'll start with one from The Guardian. And the headline there says, cannabis use falls among U.S. teenagers, but rises among everyone else, according to a study.
The research, which looked at data on more than 500,000 people's cannabis habits during different time periods between 2013 and 2022, was published in this month's edition of Drug and Alcohol Dependence Reports. Also revealed that cannabis use had increased among Americans in households earning more than $75,000 a year, as well as those with a college degree. We used data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and we really just estimated the prevalence of use, said Devon Mattingly, who's a behavioral science professor at the University of Kentucky, and he's the lead author of the study.
He goes on to say that we also examined trends in current cannabis use, which was defined as any use in the past 30 days, as well as prevalence patterns and trends in use by age, gender, race, ethnicity, educational attainment, and total annual family income. Mattingly said he was surprised to learn that teen cannabis use had remained stagnant during this period. He expected to see an increase.
Still, he said this data might not tell us everything. The study looked at all youth from age 12 to 17 as one category, partly because more specific data could violate the confidentiality of minors. If we were able to disintegrate or disaggregate the data a little more and look at changes between the middle to high school youth, for example, we may see an increase, said Mattingly. Of course, I think he would. Recent CDC data found that cannabis use decreased among high schoolers from 23% using it in 2013 to 17% using it in 2023. That's a big decline.
It is a big decline, and there was something similar like that here in Canada. It is possible that state-level legalization has curtailed teen cannabis use because recreation dispensaries are strictly forbidden from selling to anyone under 21 and are often required to scan IDs to make sure that they are authentic, unlike many bars and liquor stores. Jordan Gett, a postdoctoral fellow at the Rutgers Center of Alcohol and Substance Use Studies, said there could be other factors at play.
For example, the pandemic influenced substance use trends. We saw a sharp decline in cannabis use among teens during the pandemic, likely due to several factors such as time with peers and increased time with parental supervision, she explained. Teenagers seem to be using fewer illicit substances in general.
Yep. For example, she says, alcohol use and vaping have been decreased among 8th and 12th graders since 2020. So I don't think this decrease in cannabis prevalence among teens is specifically due to cannabis legalization, but is rather more reflective of a broader trend in post-pandemic substance use. While teens might be abstaining more, the study's numbers on income and educational attainment show that people with higher socioeconomic status are now more likely to use cannabis. Use among people in higher income households and those with college degrees more than doubled. Only after 4% of people with college degree used cannabis in 2023, while nearly 13% did in 2022. Among people in households earning $75,000 or more, 6% used cannabis in 2023, while in 2022, 13% did.
Wow. Getty says this is probably because legalization has also changed how people perceive cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And now that cannabis is legalized product in many states, we see celebrities and professional athletes endorse cannabis products, she said. Dispensaries popping up in expensive neighborhoods and near college campuses might also attract people from high-income demographics.
Manuel says that increased access to medical cannabis might also explain some changes because higher income is collaborated with access to healthcare. And in states that have legalized medical cannabis use, you may see oftentimes that especially older adults may be using cannabis to combat pain.
Another finding that stood out to Mattingly was that cannabis use was highest among non-Hispanic, multiracial people compared with other races and ethnicities. Over 25% of people in this category, which is rarely highlighted in scientific research, used cannabis in 2022. I believe that the population density of multiracial folk in the U.S. is increasing. So naturally, as we conduct more observational research over time, we're going to see more representation of multiracial groups, he said. These folks need to be included more in research. In the past, you don't see it as often.
There you go. Teen adult use is down.
That's funny because I keep hearing about how it, every time that they legalize it somewhere, it goes through the sky. Everybody's smoking it there. All the teenagers are.
Yeah, exactly. And well, we had a story last week, the opinion piece from the guy that, it should have had a reefer madness alert on it, and it was so bad.
I wish I knew his name, but I believe it was the Ottawa Citizen. That one.
It was the the article was in the Ottawa Citizen, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I knew that guy's name though, so I could include it in this.
Johnson was his last name. That's all I can think of. Yeah. Alrighty. On to the next story. Headline there says cannabis suspensions high in Sask labor weekend traffic stop. And this comes to us from CJME.com.
Saskatchewan RCMP stopped more than 4,725 vehicles in the province's roads over the Labor Day long weekend last week for safety checks. The stops on Highway 16 west of Saskatoon, on Highway 1 east of Regina, Highway 11 at Chamberlain, and Highway 54 at Lumsden saw a total of 46 people have their licenses suspended, with 28 tickets and 76 written warnings issued, and 2 people charged with impaired driving. 37 of the license suspensions were for cannabis. In Saskatchewan, there is a zero tolerance law for driving with drugs in your body, which, again, this is all on a test that's not reliable for what's in your body at that time.
Yeah, yeah. On August 30th, on Highway 16, officers stopped more than 2,500 vehicles and suspended 14 licenses for alcohol or drug use. The suspensions ranged from 3 to 120 days, the police said. 12 were for cannabis, 1 for alcohol, and 1 for cocaine. Oh.
That's
The
a weird
Highway
one.
1 checkpoint on August the 34th stopped more than 275 vehicles, and 11 people had license suspensions, 9 for cannabis and 2 for alcohol. Well, police issued 18 tickets and 55 written warnings. 1 person was charged with impaired driving. Wonder what the impaired driving charge was. Was it for alcohol or was it for cannabis?
I'm curious now.
Hmm.
They're not going to tell us.
Yeah.
September 1st operation at Chamberlain stopped more than 1,950 vehicles. Police administered 180 mandatory alcohol screening tests and 16 oral fluid device tests for cannabis, and suspended the licenses of 15 people, 13 for cannabis and 2 for alcohol. And just so everybody knows, people that are suspended for cannabis under this are not necessarily impaired at the time.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the problem with the test they do. It does not tell you the person's impaired. It just tells you they've used it in the last month and a half. That's it.
Well, yeah. Well, they use the swab in your mouth. Is
Yeah.
what they're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that test too. I failed it. So,
Yeah.
I was not smoking at the time, not even close, not within weeks. So any of those tests they do, blood or swab tests, they're not reliable to tell you if the person's using cannabis.
It just shows consumption.
Yeah, it could have been the day before, it could have been the week before. It does not show you that they used it that day. And that's why these tests are flawed, and I don't think they should be used in any legal context. I'm not saying you should drive when you smoke. That's not what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
I'm just saying this is not a reliable way to say that someone did that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Tickets were also handed out for having open alcohol in a vehicle, and 3 people were nabbed for driving unregistered vehicles. 7 written warnings were issued.
The Limestone checkpoint, also on September the 1st, saw 6 tickets and 14 written warnings issued, with 1 person charged with impaired driving. 6 people had license suspension, 1 for cocaine, 1 for alcohol, 3 for cannabis, and 1 related to drugs, including a new driver who received a 60-day suspension after an oral fluid test determined they'd consumed cannabis. According to the RCMP, Mounties charged more than 1,700 people with impaired driving in 2023, and alcohol was a factor in 1/3 of all fatal collisions.
According to SCI, an average of 34 people die every year in Saskatchewan as a result of impaired driving. SGI Regina Police Services, Saskatchewan Police Services, Corman Park Police Service, and the Saskatchewan Highway Patrol partner with the RCMP on the traffic safety initiatives. As far as I know, they were only allowed to stop vehicles randomly like this because of the alcohol consumption, and they weren't supposed to do anything else besides find out if you were drunk. Now we're talking about people with suspended licenses and stuff. That has nothing to do with you being drunk.
No, but as far as you're stopping and pulling you over, they don't need a reason anymore.
No, well, the problem was always the mass pulling people over en masse, you know, and that was let go because drunk driving, right? Yeah. So when they initiated that part of it, they were only supposed to look for drunk drivers. They were not supposed to look in your back seat and find out if your child was seated properly.
You know what I mean? Against driving with cannabis in you, so they're checking for cannabis too. So and there's zero tolerance in Saskatchewan. So
which is weird because the test is not accurate, and everybody knows it. The courts know it. The police know it.
And people still get charged and convicted.
Yeah, and lose their license on the spot, or at least get it suspended on the spot.
All righty, here we go. Next story. This one comes to us from Mugglehead Magazine. Colorado's first psychedelic church opens its doors.
Mystic Psychedelic Experience has inspired a Colorado Springs resident to open the state's first psychedelic church. He said he was transported to a Mexican forest where his ancestors told him to heal others with psilocybin. His name is Benji Dazavo, has now converted his home into a chapel where attendees partake in ceremonies involving magic mushrooms and DMT. It has become a full-time job for him, and he now hosts 15 or more gatherings per month.
Now, according to Dezavo, however you pronounce his name, he says, they told me they used this to heal their people and that I needed to do the same thing. Now, Colorado, they have decriminalized the use of psychedelics at the end of 2022, and now Des simply needs to make sure that participants are over 21 before they proceed.
He provides his guests with homegrown psilocybin and DMT. He has extracted himself. Designated sober individuals are present during the sessions to help Des make sure everything goes smoothly. He has named his holy house the Community of Pack Life, but hasn't specified the meaning behind the title. It opened up earlier this year and was brought into the spotlight in a piece written by the Colorado Sun earlier this week.
Yeah, pack because it's all capitalized. That tells me it's a short form for something.
Yeah, 4 words, obviously.
Yeah. DeZavo also offers classes on how to grow your own psychedelic fungi and hosts an assortment of community events at the church. He will be leading a discussion about recovering from trauma on Saturday afternoon. Well, there they are right there in the church. Now, this would provide tax exemptions, reduce operational costs, enhance public trust, and access to grants and other partnerships that are only available to nonprofits.
Thus far, Dens has sunk about $4,000 out of his own pockets into maintaining the church. I have dedicated myself entirely to this, he explained. The psychedelics he has been providing to people are free. He also wants to raise money through grant funding and local business donations so he can provide healing retreats for veterans at no cost to them. Nice.
Yeah, he says that access to psychedelics is going to provide thousands of Coloradans with healing, both of the mind and the soul. He says he is someone who was able to overcome depression and suicidal thoughts with the help of psychedelics. Des has a background in psychology and holds a degree in that field. Well, he's got some education behind him.
Yeah. And I've read so many stories now claiming the same thing. I have no personal experience with this, but the stories tell the story basically, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Patients sharing their stories are very educational. And as you said, like, you don't have any experience with it. And just by, hearing all these stories or reading these stories about the benefits.
I mean, when I was 18, I tried it, but that wasn't for any of these reasons that people are trying them now.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. Just like, somebody who was doing LSD back in the 70s and 80s and stuff. So, all right, last story before we go to break. This one comes to us from the Marijuana Moment. Headline says, Trump's former attorney general says Biden marijuana rescheduling move is grossly irresponsible, calling cannabis a gateway drug.
Former Attorney General William Barr says the Biden administration is ignoring legal standards and scientific evidence to justify its proposal to federally reschedule cannabis, even as former President Donald Trump, who appointed him, has recently embraced state-level legalization. In an op-ed for Fox News that was published on Thursday, Barr took aim at the Biden-Harris administration for pushing to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act. He said the modest reform is an attempt to score political points ahead of the November election. But they brought this up before the last election.
Now, right? Barr says, pandering to progressive voters, the administration is pushing hard to reschedule cannabis by bypassing the DEA. And his law firm represented Smart, Sam, they're the people who are against cannabis. He's accused the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services of sidestepping the established standards for scheduling drugs and conjuring up a new set of criteria designed to deliver the administration's desired result, to reschedule marijuana.
Politics, not science, is driving the Biden-Harris administration push to reschedule cannabis, Barr said, who opposed Trump during the most recent primary election, but is now backing the Republican ticket heading into November. And he wrote, had it not jettisoned established standards and lessened the rigor of the scientific process, the administration could not validate rescheduling. And Barr's op-ed does not make mention of Trump's recent comments supporting cannabis legalization initiative on Florida's November ballot.
The former top federal law enforcement officer said marijuana does meet the criteria for Schedule 1 classification, in part because he feels the increased THC levels in commercially available products in state markets demonstrates its high abuse potential. He also said cannabis use carries wide-ranging negative effects on mental and physical health.
He added that in order to circumvent the inconvenient reality that cannabis was also has no approved medical use, the Biden-Harris HHS argued that the fact some states have passed laws allowing medical use for cannabis is sufficient to establish that it has legitimate medical use. And anybody who wants to read anything, take them about 15 minutes on the internet to find about 1,000 people that will tell you they use this medically.
That's right.
And I was laughing because it says the former top law enforcement official. I was going, that guy never enforced any law that that his boss didn't agree with.
Right.
Sorry, I had to put that in there.
Yeah, these talking points have often been voiced by prohibitionists, including Sam and several conservative congressional lawmakers opposing the rescheduling. Barr says drug laws are meant to protect American citizens and especially American children from dangerous substances. But by politicizing the rescheduling process, the Biden administration is playing with people's lives amid the worst drug crisis in our nation has ever faced. Well, Bill, look it up. You'll find that cannabis can help you with that worst drug crisis.
Yeah, nope, never happened. The former attorney general, who also held the post during President George H.W. Bush, that was before he went insane, also argued that while not all cannabis users go on to use harder drugs, he claimed the vast majority of people who use harder drugs started on cannabis. And I would bet you my life that the vast majority of people started eating food before they used cannabis.
Or they even had alcohol before they even had smoke.
Yeah, it just, that statement is absolutely nothing. It means nothing at all.
It's repeated often.
Wow. And it's all about your kids too. It's always about your kids, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, he also says it is grossly irresponsible to facilitate the use of a gateway drug at a time when more than 100,000 Americans are dying of drug overdoses each year. Barr also said the country would be subsidizing the marijuana industry if marijuana is moved to Schedule 3 because state licensed companies would be able to take federal tax deductions they're currently barred from under the IRS code known as 280E.
Rescheduling would give government sanction to the cannabis industry's campaign to downplay cannabis's addictive potential and health risks, allowing weed peddlers to cultivate broad-based dependence on drug and expand their pool of repeat customers, he said. We hear a lot of the current administration about the rule of law, but by ignoring legal standards and scientific evidence in its rush to loosen restrictions on cannabis, the Biden-Harris administration is riding roughshod over the rule of law and playing fast and loose with the health and safety of the American people, all for political gain. Wow.
During the Trump administration, Barr faced criticism for initiating investigations into cannabis industry mergers that were described as improper. At a Senate hearing in 2019, Barr said that while he personally opposes legalization, he would prefer for Congress to pass a bill representing the rights of states to implement their own cannabis policies rather than maintain blanket federal prohibition.
At his confirmation hearing earlier this year, he said he would not go after cannabis companies that have operated in compliance with Justice Department guidelines. That was rescinded by his predecessor, Jeff Sessions. Separately, Robert F. Kennedy, a former 2024 presidential candidate who has since been tapped to join the transition team for Trump, after endorsing the GOP candidate, is drawing attention to Vice President Kamala Harris's prosecutorial record on cannabis.
Amid increased attention to Trump's position on federal and state level cannabis reform issues, JFK Jr. Shared a video of an early exchange between Harris and former Rep. Tulsi Gabbard during a 2020 Democratic presidential primary debate when the then Congresswoman criticized the then senator over cannabis-related prosecutions she oversaw as a California prosecutor and state attorney general. Recent comments from Trump have also signaled support for Florida's cannabis legalization initiative that will appear on the ballot following meetings with the GOP Florida senator and the CEO of the primary financial backer of the initiative, True Love's Kim Rivers, sources told Marijuana Moment.
In recent comments published on Tuesday, Trump said medical marijuana has been absolutely amazing for patients and that the Florida legalization initiative is going to be very good for the state after it passes, which he expects to happen. Following Trump's announcement of support for the Florida cannabis legalization ballot measure, Harris's campaign started working to remind voters that while in office, Trump took cannabis reform backwards.
In a memo from a senior campaign spokesperson, the Harris campaign accused Trump of brazen flip-flops on cannabis. The Democratic campaign says it's one of the Republican former president's several bewildering policy proposals that deserve real scrutiny. So there you go. This is going to be back and forth. I can just see that when it comes to the cannabis end of things, you know.
It's just fun. It's funny to listen to Barr tell us about how we're supposed to follow the law.
Yeah. Really? Maybe you should talk to his former boss about all that stuff, eh?
Yeah, and himself for listening.
Yeah,
to
it. And himself. That's right. Well, Glenn, it's commercial time for us to hear from who help us inform our viewers. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. And you're live with Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. You having an awesome day there, Glenn?
I am.
Good.
I love that last story.
All right. Well, as somebody with an autoimmune condition known as Crohn's, I like this next one. This comes to us for the marijuana moment. Medical marijuana improves quality of life for Crohn's and ulcerative colitis patients, a study shows.
A new scientific review of research on the impacts of cannabis on inflammatory bowel diseases such as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis finds that cannabinoid therapy help reduce disease activity and improve quality of life in patients with the chronic diseases. But didn't we just read Bill Barr said there's no medical use of it?
Correct. Yes.
This meta-analysis of clinical trials on it too, eh?
Yeah.
That cannabinoids are associated with improved quality of life in both CD and UC, wrote the four-doctor University of Pennsylvania team behind the new research. Wow, that's research right in the States he could have looked up.
Right in the States, right there by university. Yeah.
Wow.
Notably, however, no reduction in inflammation was observed in patients who took cannabinoids, nor were any difference observed when analyzing patients' endoscopies. And I was disappointed by that when I read that. I was hoping that it did, but they say it doesn't. The research published in the journal Inflammatory Bowel Diseases evaluated 8 total studies, including 4 into Crohn's, 3 into ulcerative colitis, and 1 study of both diseases.
Among 5 studies of CD, statistically significant decrease in clinical disease activity following intervention was observed. An abstract of the new review says clinical disease activity in UC was not significantly lower in the pooled analysis. Improvement in quality of life was observed in both CD and UC combined, as well as individually.
In March of this year, a separate study in the Journal of Health Research and Medical Science found that cannabinoids show potential in improving disease activity and quality of life in patients with UC. Meanwhile, a study out of Australia last year found that patients with chronic health conditions such as saw significant improvements in overall quality of life and reductions in fatigue during the first 3 months of medical cannabis use.
And patients experiencing anxiety, depression, or chronic pain also improved in those outcomes over the 3-month study. Findings of another study last year that examined cannabis neurocognitive effects suggest that prescribed medical cannabis may have minimal acute impact on cognitive function among patients with chronic health conditions. Could a relief of long-term cannabis patients who are concerned about potential neurological drawbacks of the drug?
Yet, another study last year published by the American Medical Association found that the use of medical cannabis was associated with significant improvements in quality of life for people with chronic conditions like pain and insomnia. And those effects were largely sustained over time.
And again, we just finished reading a story that said there was absolutely no medical use.
Yeah, exactly.
And it astounds me how these people do no research, no nothing.
It's just the same, repeat the same old prohibitionist lines over and over and over again.
Your kids will die and you will be a drug addict for the rest of your life. Done.
Yeah, exactly. All righty, on to the next story. And this one here, it comes to us from TribuneIndia.com. It says, Himachal Calling. Panel on controlled cultivation of cannabis submits report in assembly.
Okay. Amidst apprehensions over allowing the controlled cultivation of cannabis for industrial and medicinal purposes, the report of the committee entrusted to look into various aspects of this contentious issue was finally submitted in the Vidham Sabha. Has Himachal Pradesh inches closer to finally allowing cannabis cultivation for non-narcotic use, an issue being deliberated upon for the last more than a decade. It is with utmost caution that the government will have to tread in this regard.
Revenue Minister Jaggi Negi, who headed the committee to look into all aspects of allowing the cultivation, said the state hoped to make an income of about 500 crore annually from this sector, which would gradually increase. Cannabis finds use in sectors like food, textiles, paper, construction material, furniture, cosmetics, biofuels, and healthcare products, besides in treating ailments like cancer, epilepsy, and chronic pain. The cash-strapped state is desperately looking for areas to generate the much-needed revenue, and cannabis could prove to be a ray of hope. It is under the provisions of Section 10 and 14 of the NDPS Act 1985, along with Rule 29 of the NDPS Rules 1989, that cannabis cultivation can be undertaken for medical, scientific, and industrial purposes.
And Revenue Minister Jagat Nagy, who headed the committee to look into all. Isn't this the same one?
That part is the same.
Yeah.
Go down to the next paragraph.
The committee has finalized its report after undertaking a study tour of Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu and Kashmir in May last year to gain firsthand knowledge of various issues. Meetings were held with representatives of the Pachal Raj institutions in Chambra, Kangra, Pillu, Mandi, Simaur, and Solan, which were climatically suited for cannabis cultivation. The team which visited Madhya Pradesh was cautioned by officials to ensure the strict monitoring to prevent the diversion of cannabis for narcotic use. It has been proposed in the report of the committee that the scientists from the agriculture and horticulture universities can be roped in to ensure that seeds with less than 0.3% delta-9 THC content were made available to the farmers who venture into this field. Difficulty in procuring such seeds with low narcotic content is a problem faced by farmers in Ulcerative. Now, I have a question about this.
Sure.
They seem to be talking about hemp and cannabis at the same time. And they could separate those two, and the cannabis would be the very minor part of it.
Well, as I mentioned, they want the 0.3, so they're looking for the hemp and the things, and they can buy them from other countries in order to import them to sell them to the farmers. There is no denying that the use of cannabis for making hemp apparel, which constitutes a very high-ending clothing, can fetch very good returns, but the path is fraught with many challenges. Other beneficial uses of cannabis can be in sectors like food, textiles, paper, construction material, furniture, cosmetics, biofuels, and healthcare products. Apart from this, cannabidiol compounds have been found to be effective in treating ailments like cancer, epilepsy, and chronic pain.
No, they have medical use again?
Oh, Bill.
Wow. Sensitizing the community and creating awareness about the exact purposes and the legal aspects will in itself be a big challenge. Making available seeds with the help of scientific guidance and putting in place a strict control and regulation mechanism with a specialized staff are challenges admitted by the committee itself. Areas of Himachal Pradesh, especially the Kulu Manali Valley, has gained notoriety for the cultivation and trafficking of cannabis, with the hash form here being considered amongst the best. The efforts of the police, who's the Narcotic Control Bureau, and other law enforcing agencies over the past 3 years have failed to yield the desired results, with villagers still undertaking illegal cultivation in inaccessible higher reaches for narcotic use.
In fact, Malana village in Kulu, considered to be the oldest democracy in the world, with the villagers claiming to be ancestors of Alexander, attracts hordes of youth in search of the famed Malana cream. Despite sustained fight against the illegal drug trade, especially in Kulu, Mandi, Chamba, and a few areas of Shama and Sirmar districts, the illegal drug trade continues to flourish. There we go.
People want what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And put the legal system. They put a legal system in. It is going to reduce, as we saw here in Canada. people go to the stores, which does reduce the numbers that go to the illegal market.
Oh, definitely.
But they're talking about it as non-narcotic use, so non-recreational. They're just talking about business end of things and
Which
making medicine.
90% of what they were talking about is hemp, not THC cannabis.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Get the next story lined up. And this one comes to us from the Green Market Report. It says new study shows psilocybin effective in treating alcoholism.
Studies have consistently shown positive results for treating alcohol disorders with psychedelic drugs. Psychedelics are being considered for various mental health issues like drug-resistant depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Now they are being studied for treating addictive behaviors like alcoholism.
2 recently published studies have shown that classic psychedelics such as LSD, psilocybin, and ayahuasca could be effective as a treatment for alcohol use disorder. Researchers at the University of Copenhagen and the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism found that a single dose of psilocybin combined with the therapy was effective at reducing alcohol consumption in study participants. The first study, conducted at the Psychiatric Center of Copenhagen, Frederiksberg Hospital, University of Copenhagen, Denmark, has not been peer-reviewed, but the 10 adults included in the study reported rapid and sustained reductions in cravings for alcohol following their treatment. According to the article on Leafy, it says the open label single group study investigated single dose psilocybin therapy in 10 treatment seeking adults, which were 8 men and 2 women. Median age was 44, with severe AUD. The treatments involved 2 preparation sessions, a high-dose psilocybin session, which is 25 milligrams, and 2 integration sessions.
Okay. The results demonstrated that alcohol consumption significantly decreased over the 12 weeks following psilocybin administration. Heavy drinking days were reduced by 37.5%, and drinks per day decreased by 3.4 units. The study concluded that a single 25 milligram psilocybin dose was safe and effective in reducing alcohol consumption in AUD patients. It went on to suggest that larger randomized placebo-controlled single-dose AUD trials were warranted.
Now, another study, it was conducted by researchers at the University of Southern Santa Catarina in Brazil and published in the journal Progress in Neuropharmacological, Psychopharmacological, and Biological Psychiatry. Researchers were aware that a single dose of psilocybin had been effective at curbing nicotine addictions. The researchers were also well versed in the use of LSD as well as psilocybin to treat addictive behaviors. This second study said that given that serotonergic psychedelics do not produce physical dependence or withdrawal symptoms with repeated use, they may be considered promising treatment options for managing drug use disorders.
The study found that 5-HT2A receptor activation may be effective in the pharmacotherapy of AUD. It is also determined that classic psychedelics have the potential to moderate neuroplasticity in the brain. Green Market Report has previously written that there are just 4 medications approved by the Food and Drug Administration for the treatment of AUD, which is disulfiram, acamprostate, oral naltrexone, and injectable naltrexone. One is very old, whose disulfiram was approved in 1951. Most are expensive. Injectable naltrexone costs $1,100 to $1,200 per monthly dose, and all have limited to moderate efficacy according to the study. Wow.
One of the first studies found out how psilocybin could treat alcoholism was in 2015, which was a proof of concept clinical trial that showed promising results. Another study by the Johns Hopkins University beginning in April 2021 looked at whether a single high 25 milligram oral dose of psilocybin would lead to reductions in depressive symptoms and the amount of drinking compared to placebo in patients with both major depression disorders and AUD. Even the co-founder of Alcohol Anonymous, Bill Wilson, promoted the use of LSD to treat alcoholism in the 1950s and early 1960s. He reportedly believed that LSD, by mimicking insanity, could help alcoholics achieve a central tenet of the 12-step program proposed by AA. It was a matter of finding a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity, he says.
So he's saying by making yourself insane, you restore your sanity.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Now, does he suggest? And he suggests to use LSD to do that?
Me?
No,
Personally?
isn't that what he was suggesting? Was
Yeah, he was
LSD?
suggesting
Yeah.
make yourself a little insane with LSD to make yourself sane again.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, saying release all the crap from yourself and you'll be better,
That's right. Okay,
Just
so
a funny way to say it.
ever since we've had the Bill Barr, there's no no reason for medical
Yeah.
cannabis and all that. We've had these studies, and now let's go on to another one. And this is the last article of the day, and this comes to us from mensjournal.com, and it says marijuana users less likely to experience severe COVID infections, the study confirms.
I wonder if he believes in COVID.
I don't know.
A new study has potentially good news for cannabis users as we head into peak COVID season. People who use cannabis were found to be less likely to experience serious illness and even death. The study, which was conducted by Northwell Health in New York and published last week in the Cannabis and Cannabinoid Research Medical Journal, found that cannabis users had better outcomes and mortality compared with non-users. The researchers believe that the beneficial effects of the drug use may be attributed to its immune modulatory effects, which helps the body fight off infection and disease. Wow, medical use.
Yeah. In coming up with the findings, the team analyzed COVID patient data from the National Inpatient Sample Database and then divided the patients into two groups based on cannabis use. A total of 322,214 patients were included in the study. This ain't no small study.
No,
with 2,603 being cannabis users. Users and non-users were then matched to adjust for factors such as age, race, gender, and other comorbidities. Cannabis users also tended to be younger and had a higher prevalence of tobacco use. Ooh. According to Forbes, 28.2% of cannabis users were found to have experienced serious infection compared to nearly double at 46.6% of non-users. The mortality rate was likewise just 2.8% for users and 5.1% for non-users, with intubation rates at 7.1% and 9.7% respectively. Cannabis users also had shorter hospital stays at 6.4 days compared to 7 days for non-users.
On initial analysis, cannabis users had significantly lower rates of severe COVID-19 infection, intubation, ARDS, acute respiratory failure, severe sepsis, and multi-organ failure, mortality, and shorter length of hospital stay, the study's authors write. After one-to-one matching, cannabis use was associated with lower rates of severe COVID-19 infection, intubation, ARDS, acute respiratory failure, severe sepsis, and multi-organ failure, mortality, and shorter length of hospital stay. This is not the first study that has linked cannabis use to COVID outcomes. In 2022, researchers at Oregon State University published a study that found certain cannabinoids, as in the naturally occurring biological compounds found in cannabis, prevented the virus from entering human cells. The cannabinoid acids, which are commonly found in hemp varietals of cannabis, had the ability to bind to the spike protein of the virus and neutralize it. Wow.
Oh. Yeah.
Neutralize it. That's basically stop it. Just
Yeah,
stop it.
yeah. Better keep that as Schedule 1, Bill.
He probably doesn't believe in COVID.
Whether he believes it or not, the fact that it shows, in those studies what it's been able to do.
Like you said, we read 3 studies right after that, and
Yeah.
all of them were talking about medical uses for cannabis or psychedelics.
Quality of life improvements.
And I've heard this for the couple years I've been doing this show. The same kind of studies coming out over and over again. Quality of life improves. Your mental outlook improves. It helps you with so many different things. To say there's no medical use for it is just a fool's words. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Anything else before we sign off?
Peace, everybody.
All right. From the Legacy420.com news, that's the news report for today. We hope you find it educational and informative, because even we do when we read them.
Every single time.
Yeah. Thank you to Legacy420.com, the Campbellford lifestyle shop, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, as well as atease.ca, and to our viewers. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.